How do you sell out an NFT collection? Whether it's a bear market or a bull market, we are Crowdcreate, one of the leading NFT marketing agencies, and we connect you with the top experts, investors, and influencers that can help you sell out your NFT collection. In this interview, we're going to break down the secrets on what's working. We have Jeff here with Crowdcreate, and we have a special guest. His name is Arvin. Actually came across his Twitter social media posts and just talking about one of the most frequently discussed topics is how to sell out your NFT collection, especially now during crypto winter or bear market. Arvin has a wealth of knowledge, and Arvin, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So my name is Arvin. Been in marketing since about 10 years ago. Started with small businesses, blogging, and then got into doing investor relationship marketing for public companies, where I was, majority of the times I was running 500K a month paid ads. And a lot of that knowledge was transferable when I got into the Web3 space. So my intro to that was artist from Italy, one-of-one artist, 2021. He approached me and I sold out his collection with strictly just paid ads. And then that was my introduction to the Web3 space. Since then, I've worked with about 400 NFT projects and about, I want to say a dozen of them hit top 40 trending on OpenSea. One of them actually number one trending on OpenSea. And then lots of them went on to do really good things. Some of them obviously didn't. And currently I'm a CMO of a project and also continuously doing consulting with lots of different companies.
Wow, Arvin, 400 projects, that's incredible. And I know the fluctuations in the NFT market. And, specifically, the question would be, how do you sell out NFTs in a bear market?
Yeah, so obviously the evolution of the marketing is just like very interesting, right? So initially, like I would say even like back in November 2021, the formula for selling out projects was just essentially have a large Discord group, and about 30% of those would buy the NFTs. And really, that's all it was. And then that has changed. Obviously, it has changed significantly and changed for better. So now, initially, it was really, I would say 80%, 90% influencer marketing, and then about like 10%, 20% just paid ads. And then over time, I went on to do a lot more like paid ads. So initially, it was just Instagram ads, and then the cost for ads just went up like crazy. So we couldn't use Instagram ads anymore. And then also Instagram just removed a lot of the targeting. And then this is back in November 2021. In December, I went on to do a lot of Twitter ads, Quora ads, Reddit ads, all these platforms that no one knew how to even use. And then, so that was working until that stopped working as well. Then we started just, so we stopped actually basically building large Discord groups. So then what I did instead was I focused on getting lots of whitelisters. So we would build these huge communities of whitelisters, create a lot of FOMOs because so many people whitelisted for a specific project. And then about, depends on the timing, in January, about like, let's say 30% of them would buy into the project. Now in the bear market, as we entering, well, I guess as we entered already the bear market, about 8 to 10% of those whitelisters actually buy into the project. And then as of lately, I've experimented with something completely new where I just thought, you know what, this market is already changing so quickly. Everything is just so hard. Crypto has been down, let's say 60%. NFTs have been down 40 to 70%. And I think sales of the NFTs January of this year was somewhere around like $1 billion. And then it got into about 29 millions. So like, that's how, like, that's the significance of like reduction, right? And so So I kept thinking about, okay, how do we make it easier? How do we make it better? And I started running ads. So for a bunch of projects, running ads directly from essentially Twitter. So running NFT ads directly from Twitter to a mint page. So not even building whitelisters, not building followers, not even building Discord, nothing, none of those. So just doing paid ads directly to the mint page. And then, so now that's good for some people, right? So some people would just, they have the FOMO and then they just go buy it, or they just get enough information that they need to just go buy it off the ads. And some people don't. So those people who don't need a little bit more nurturing, then we would use Twitter Spaces. So we do like 5 to 6 Twitter Spaces a week. And then people just come in, ask their questions, and then they just buy. So essentially cut that process of, doing a ton of things on the Discord, engaging people for a month. So usually like 4 to 6 weeks. And then only to a certain percentage of those people would buy. Now, I'm talking only about like good stuff, right? So like this is like in a ideal condition where you build a Discord, you build a Twitter, and just all like in, I guess, organic ways, meaning like you don't buy fake followers or fake people in your Discord, not just necessarily not with ads, but just meaning like real people. But in reality, what happens is people bring all these, like, let's say followers, or bring all these like Discord members into the community, but then sometimes they don't want to engage. Sometimes they're a part of, let's say, 30 different Discord servers. It may be the sentiment of the market is just like not very strong about NFTs. Maybe they don't want to engage on Discord anymore, right? So then what they would end up doing, a lot of projects, they would pay for people to be on Twitter Spaces. They would pay for people to actually have chatter in their Discord. And then they would pay for people to even just like join their Discord, pay for people to, follow them on Twitter. And then, so all these things that were just like fake, everything fake. And I thought, well, if it's all fake, why not just like cut all of that? And then instead, just do paid ads. If it's all fake, like what's the point of just creating that? And then so we can show it to people, and then people would get excited to buy. Let's just ask them to buy right now. And maybe, just maybe, people are actually more excited to just buy it instead of do the Discord grind and just you do all that work just for a freaking whitelist, right?
Yep.
And so that was the context behind it. And just give you some results out of like people who've done this. And I give you, I guess, results for both the strategies. So for direct ads to a mint page, and I give you one example. This was a project that actually, this project failed first before they came to me. They literally failed after 4 months of project not even moving along as far as their mint at all. Everyone just told them, just pack your bag and just leave. You guys don't belong to this space. Like literally that's the sentiment of the market, right? And then they started paid ads, and they spent about $40 per new NFT sales. So they spent about, just last month alone, this is the last 28 days, and they spent about 27K. And I believe they had about 800-ish NFT sales. So that's somewhere around like $30-ish for NFT. So paid ads directly to the mint page, people would buy. So this alone, and this is like what they said, this alone single-handedly revived their entire project. So they wouldn't just, no one would buy like at all. But this actually changed everything, right? So now like there's growth happening, right? And it's not because these guys are like coming to the Discord and talking, they're just buying the NFT. That's what's important, right? And it's obviously bringing revenue to the project too. So that's one recent data. And it's really important, everything about marketing, to be recent. Like someone's like, it's really funny. Sometimes I get requests for like doing a podcast in like 6 months later. And they ask me like what the title of the podcast was going to be, and I'm like, I don't know, like let's just talk like a week before that, like who knows what's going to happen 6 months later. So it's very important like that, to have recent data, like what worked, let's say November, December, January, not necessarily going to work right now. So I'm talking about recent data, last 28 days. And then another recent data was a process where we actually took people to a page, like we used prement.xyz, and then we actually had people join like a whitelister community. And then out of those people who joined, about 8.75% of them actually bought about 1.5 NFTs, almost 2 NFTs. And then so that's another way that's been working for us. So two ways. Two ways. One is the building a whitelist community, and then another one is build just straight ads to a mint page. Now, when I say straight ads to mint page, doesn't necessarily mean it just has to be straight ads. Like it could be, the point is just traffic to a mint page. It could be ads, it could be influencers, it could be podcasts, like it could, the source of traffic doesn't matter what it is, but that's what I've used, right? It could be anything else. It could be like publications. Like if you want to go on like tier 1 publications and just drive traffic from them, that's fine also.
Wow, that's incredible. And so a lot of these projects, are they indie creators and they're looking to initially do that initial mint or sellout? And then what's next for them after they have this? Do they keep on just cranking on that funnel and then start building product, or what's
so hopefully not, well, okay, so this is also a very interesting thing happened just recently because of the bear market. So it used to be that the whole point of the NFT sales was to fund the delivering on the promises on the roadmap, right? So that was the whole point. But because I guess the bear market happened, then some projects started to be more innovative. Like it started to actually create things without needing a lot of money, which is really good for the space as well. But also like they realized sometimes they need to even maybe put money down in advance from their own pocket or get VCs involved, and really fund their own project first, and then ask people for money. So sometimes that's also the case, and we see more of that like lately. I actually just partnered up with a VC myself because I see the value that like a VC could bring as far as just bringing funding to a project, and then that project doesn't necessarily need to sell out to be able to deliver on promises, but it's nice to sell out, right? So that's really important because sometimes they don't sell out, right? In fact, I would say a majority of projects don't sell out, right? So like it's just like startups. One out of every, I believe, 10 or 20 startups, they're successful. The rest of them completely vanish, take everyone's money, including all the investors and VCs, and just completely vanish. And that's okay. That's just how it is. So I see NFT projects just like startups as well. Sometimes they don't know how to do business. Sometimes they don't know how to manage. So it's just simply that. It's not necessarily that they have like poor intentions or anything, but sometimes they do. But you know, that's not necessarily always the case. So next step for them is really start delivering on their promises, and hopefully they've already thought everything through. And so it's not just like, oh, okay, so now what are we going to do? It's more just like, okay, here are the things we need to do this month or the next few months. Here are the other things we need to do, so on and so forth. And as they deliver on their promises, usually those type of projects, you see that their floor price stays high up versus the ones that they don't deliver as much. You see their floor price just dives deep into like closer to zero. And so that's basically what's after the sellout.
Nice. So when it comes down to ad targeting and finding those audiences, and say some projects into the art side, some sides or another projects into fashion, how do you drill down those audiences to find that highest converting, say, ad set?
Yeah. So this is, again, very important, what time of the year like we're doing this, right? So this is, again, right now, what I'm about to say is working right now. Like if something happens, just like a Luna crash or something crazy happens, I don't know, like, you know, things may change, right? But so what's working right now is targeting Web 2 people and Web 3 people. So you don't want to just target people who know about NFTs. You also want to target people who don't know about NFTs and also be able to onboard them really well into the space. And maybe the NFT that you have will be the first NFT they purchase in their life. And they be your clients for the rest of their life because you just literally introduce them to something completely new it's a whole new world. You just introduce them. So there's that target. So, and I'll give you a real life example. So let's say if the NFT is all about, let's say the utility of the NFT is all about like a bunch of, let's say skateboarders that they want to give, I'm just making this up, they want to give like assigned skateboards to their holders of the NFTs, right? So it's all about skateboards. It's all about like doing cool tricks with a skateboard, knowing people like Tony Hawk and like cool people in that industry, right? So then what they can do as far as targeting, they can target those people who are already in that space, has nothing to do with NFTs, right? So target those people and just get them excited to actually buy this thing that's called NFT that would allow them to get all those benefits, right? Mm-hmm. So NFT is just a vehicle. Now, instead of NFT being this thing that they need product, it's more just like a vehicle for them to get the benefits, which is like a very important thing. Because a lot of times people confuse that. They're like, I need to sell NFTs. You don't need to sell NFTs. You need to sell like the benefits of the NFTs. And then NFTs just happens to be what actually allows for those benefits to be given to the holders, right? So that's very important. And then you have the Web3 people. So Web3 people, including myself, we are somewhat jaded. We've already been rugged once or twice. So like the ads targeting is going to, the ad copy, the creative, everything has to be different. So we don't need onboarding into the space. We've already been onboarded. But what's different is that like if we see something that doesn't look like legit, if we see something that's gonna that's just screams rug pull, any of those things, that's just gonna we're just gonna be a lot more alert. And we're more skeptic too. So that's the target market, right? And so Web3 people, majority of them are males. So about, I want to say 25 to 55 year old. Countries will be mostly Singapore, Cyprus, United States, Hong Kong, Germany, Netherlands, Dubai, countries like that. And then as far as the Web2, they could be anywhere, like as far as the countries, and also age, they could be any age. But Web3 is very specific. So those are as far as the targeting. So in the past, I would say up until January of this year, I would be targeting, I would say 80% Web3 people, 20% Web2. Now it's kind of like maybe 50-50 or even 60-40, mostly focusing on actually Web2 people versus Web3. Because Web3 people, they just have a lot of opinions about everything. It's a lot harder, to convert them. Versus Web2 people, they may not even know like Luna crash happened. They may not even know like SEC filed, a lot of like basically trying to sue like lots of different coins and a lot of different NFT projects, so on and so forth, right? There's a lot going on in the NFT space that we know that Web2 people don't even know about. And so a lot less complicated sales process. And so I would, and I've been doing that is focusing mostly on Web2 people than Web3. Yeah.
Nice. And the messaging and the benefits. So would it be about unlocking and getting access to these things? Is joining a group? Like what's the primary benefit for NFTs?
Yeah, so right like I remember last year, it was just all about like, hey, here's this metaverse, like it's super cool. And then, so metaverse was just on its own. You would just drop the word metaverse and then everyone would just be excited, right? Mm-hmm. And then you would say like, oh, there's a staking, or there's like exclusive events, or there's like merch. All those things, before it was overdone, they were all cool. Now that time has passed, like none of those are cool anymore, so you can't just use them. It has to be actually something, so as far as utility, it has to be something that actually people get value from, benefit from, plus it has to be very specific. And then now, once they have that, what I like projects to do is actually go on Twitter space and then pitch it in front of real people and let people actually roast them. And then and then they would tell them, they would be like, someone else done this, or actually, how are you going to deliver on that, right? So I'm launching my own collection. I literally did that for myself. I just went on and I didn't tell people like who's in the team or if it's going to be my project. I just told them, hey, there's this project and here are the details of it, and let people just like basically just completely like roast me with that project, right? And then I went on, I actually refined the utilities. I was like, cool, like here are the points that they told me about. Now I'm gonna actually make it a lot better. So that's the concept. First of all, like the utility, everything has to be on point. The branding has to be on point. The narrative has to be on point. The example of a narrative is important. So for example, Goblin Town, they came up with this narrative. They said, hey, like we don't want to have a roadmap. We don't want to have a Discord. We tired of all of that, right? And then people got excited because they're like, we get it. Like they get us. Like we're tired of all of that. Like we don't want to do any more like Discord grind. And then when they came out and said that as their story, everyone just got excited. So it's very important for the narrative to be, I guess, related to what's happening in the market. The story, like why they got into NFTs, what's the story of like basically painting the scene of what it looks like for people to actually be part of this project. What does it look like for them? And then, so once they have all of those, then they're gonna actually come up with like a one-liner messaging and say, hey, in this one line, we can describe what our brand does for you, right? And then that's gonna be what they forward their marketing with.
That's great. So in the Web2 world, and right, we think about Y Combinator, Techstars, Founders Institute. The format for the messaging is usually like, growing up with these infomercials, it's like, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's what we do, here's our team. It's very like black and white, like suits, and then now with NFTs and even with Goblin Town, I see a lot of like degen culture of like breaking the stereotypical mold, coming out with something, completely revolutionary. Have you seen something that works best from that messaging standpoint of like, Goblin Town, that was great, like no roadmap, no Discord, but so what is that messaging then that these like Web3 companies want to latch onto?
Yeah, so it's really important. So I mean, I can give you another example. So for example, if you think about, and naming too, naming is very important as well. So Gary V, VeeFriends, he knew it's all going to be about his own like community, right? His community specifically. So it's VeeFriends. And then we've got like Bored Apes, Yacht Club. So it was, the story was like two writers that they wanted to talk. Well, first of all, they were writers, they weren't digital artists, so they thought, okay, we instead of doing art ourselves, what if we just do collective art? And then they were like, well, if we do collective art and everyone just paints whatever, maybe people just draw penises everywhere. And then that would be like, where would that be? That would be like it would just be like a bathroom stall, and then that would be like maybe a dive bar, and it would be like maybe a yacht club in a like a swamp. And so that's how they painted that picture, right? For people. It was just like a bunch of rich apes, wanting to just, they're super bored and then they want to just like do cool things, right? So that's the net. And like some people, and that's actually not degens, by the way, necessarily. Sometimes like people think like all NFT space is just degens. It's not. We've got people in the NFT that they don't like to be a degen. So that's just a portion of it, right? So we've got the degens that they have specific characteristics, and then we've got people who just want to collect like really cool art, and then we've got people who are just neither one. They just there, they buy and sell NFTs. So there are different types of people. So you got to figure out like which one you really want to go after, and usually degens are the latest one to come. So degens usually care about like, do you have a lot of FOMO traction? And then we come and like buy lots of it. So you can be targeting whatever you want, and then if you're successful, like degens will come. So like that's the concept. But going back to the stories and like what makes it great in the NFTs is like it's on the website you see that usually the stories are written in the future tense actually. So it talks about like what's happening in like 50 years or like 100 years from now. and it just paints the picture for how like all these like, I don't know, let's say apes, whatever animals they are, they're going to be using this specific utility. And then like something happened, some disease came into this like town, and then because of this utility, everyone's going to be able to survive, right? So it's like those are like the cool things that you say, and then just it's just the imagination, the I guess the creativity in that people bring into those stories is actually very helpful in just in actually creating a community around it, versus just saying, here's another boring NFT that I have, and just it has nothing to deliver to people. And here's the like mediocre art, mediocre team, and then just some maybe staking and like merch. Because that's actually, funny enough, we're laughing at this, but that's majority of like NFT collections, right? They have none of those things actually figured out. So they're just like, here's a combination of everything, and then they end up just combining as many utilities that they can from like other people. So they're like, we're gonna do a game as well, we're gonna do this thing, that thing, and then in the hopes of actually making the project like look cool so people will buy it, right? Versus actually just like every step of the way you just want to make it great. Just like, what if like you can make your art world class, your utility world class, your team just like amazing, right? So everything about it. So so that's that. And so the story is in the future tense. It's related to NFT people. I'll give you another example that may be actually relevant. So for example, for my project, it's going to be launched on the Solana. It's going to be in the fitness industry. And initially I thought about just making it all about like bodybuilding. And then here's the interesting thing I realized on a Twitter space. I didn't even think about this until I actually brought up that idea. I thought, okay, so it's like, it would be cool if I get like all these like NFT people to just get into bodybuilding, right? Or just find the bodybuilders in the NFT space. But that turns out that's almost like non-existent. And so like, if you don't know the market, so most of the NFT people, they're not that type of people. They're the type of people, they want to do like just cardio. They want to do like maybe some lifting, but they don't want to get into like hardcore, like extreme fitness, right? That they're just not those type of people, right? And we don't have those hardcore fitness people also doing a lot of NFT stuff. Now, there may be some, but majority of them are not, right? So it would just be a complete failure if I were to just like bring like all of a sudden like bodybuilding. So you need to know your market, right? So so that's important, because that shapes like what a story you're going to tell. So then it resonates with everyone that you're actually telling that story to as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So almost thinking about that, how would you dissect, what is your mental framework when you say, because we believe that NFTs can be inserted into any part of life, whether you're going to the gym, to maybe your next real estate property ownership, to watching your next movie. We heard, one of the creators of a major movie studio now getting into NFTs. So do you look at the audience and then the messaging, and then what is that future tense? And then you like, how do you walk us through your framework on like, how do you do it?
For the story?
Yeah, all of the above. If you just start off with just somebody, just has a great idea for whatever it may be.
Yeah. So like, first thing is like, okay, here's, so this is different for different people. Sometimes people just come up with a utility, then they're like, hey, or maybe they have a utility. So businesses, for example, they've had this utility. People have been buying this specific product or service for years. And then now they're like, we want to add NFT. We want to integrate NFT into it, right? So those type of people, NFTs are different to people who are just like an artist. And they're like, hey, we want to have a utility as well, right? So depends how it originates as well. So if it's an artist, or if it's like a utility driven project that now integrates NFTs, or is none of the above. They just come in and they're like, hey, we just want to get into the NFT world, right? And we don't have a great art, so we find someone who creates great art. We don't have a great utility. We just partner up with someone who does like maybe a gaming studio that does like a great creates a great game. And then now the next thing to do is to actually if I were, and as I'm doing it for my own project, is to actually bring that idea before just doing anything like creating websites or anything. Bring that idea to Twitter Spaces, just pitch it. Start pitching it to people, and then just see, okay, what people are telling you, and are people getting excited for it? Now, you don't have to tell them every little details of it, but you can just high level tell people, be like, hey, if there was a project like this, would you buy? Like, what would you do with it? And let's say there is, like, what do you not like about it? So on and so forth, right? So just basically have that proof of concept that this project is actually a fit for the market before you even bring it on, right? Then I would go on and actually build it. So I would then build the website. Then I would build a community around it. And then on the website, on the very top, I would have an image, like a cartoon, or like it could be like a video that really shows, like actually shows exactly what that story is about. Like that, like really paints the scene for, like, if someone just looks at that photo, they can just see themselves just wanting to be part of that. Right? That's the concept. And then the narrative or the story is like, it has to be something to do with usually something to do with the founder or whoever is like this came up with this NFT project, the utility, and the community itself. So all of those elements. And then it's usually written in the future tense. And then again, as people like reading it, as people looking at the name, they need to quickly be able to get like what it is. I give you example, again, real life example of things. There was this yacht club that I was working with them, and I found out that not everything they do is about yachts. I was like, why is this called a yacht club? This shouldn't be called a yacht club, because everyone's going to be asking about this, right? So we changed the name quickly. But that's very important to do like early on versus wait until your mint day is going to come, and then the day before, people are going to ask these kind of questions before they want to have a credit card, or I guess the wallet ready to buy, right? And so those kind of things, and then have this story, have that image on top of I guess the website. I would preferably say like best people dox themselves and have like their team with their LinkedIn actually like link on the website, utilities, how this project is different from like other projects, some people talking about their utilities, and then also like how they're going to deliver on the utilities. So like, are these people who are actually going to deliver on utilities, are they, so for example, if it's like a huge game they're going to create, are they a gaming studio to begin with? If they have nothing to do with the utilities as far as like the accomplishing those, then it's kind of hard to believe that they're going to actually be able to accomplish that, right? So things like that they need to make connections. So every little details of this website is something that it needs to be worked on, versus what it was like, let's say November, December last year, where literally I remember like there was this project, we just said on the roadmap, we just had like bullet point 1, staking, bullet point 2, metaverse, bullet point 3, like something else. That's it. Like there was literally nothing, and people just bought this project like crazy. Like we literally sold out in 7 minutes. And so, but that's not gonna happen again. Like that's done. Like the time for that is over. So now like every little details, which is better. Like I prefer this. I prefer like, because all those like projects that weren't going to actually put the effort in and actually care about their community and create something really good, they're just not going to do this. It's just too much work. So it actually became a lot better for everyone. So anyways, the steps are, the website, the story, the narrative, the branding, and then the utility. And then you really want to like have that proof of concept of utility. Do people really want it or not? Because that's important. And then start building a community around it, and or start actually going straight to the mint as well with the strategy I was telling you guys early on. And so that's really the whole shebang, just in a few sentences.
I love it.
Yeah.
Arvin, this has been great. And we need to do this again in the next quarter or in 6 months when the strategy changes again. And I'm sure we can
Cool.
do a deep dive. But Arvin, how can people follow you and just support your work, get more knowledge, insights on how to do this?
Yeah, so on Twitter, Arvin K NFT, on LinkedIn, also Arvin Kamsey. Both of them, I'm pretty active. On all socials, Arvin K NFT, but really Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are the best places. And then I have my website, soldoutnfts.io. So that's SOLDNFTS.io. They can read about case studies. I'm gonna actually publish a bunch sold outs just over the last month. And then on the socials too, if they want to DM me anything, questions, or they want to come on my Twitter spaces, as long as they're cool, they can come on Twitter spaces too.
Love it. All right, Arvin. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. If you like this video and looking for more tips and strategies, subscribe to our channel and reach out to our Crowdcreate team to see how we can help your NFT project.